All right, so we're just about to get started in our live coaching section for week 1 of Vulnerable Visibility 101. We're going to be asking I'm going to ask Barbara and Bonnie to really be focused in on this idea of setting your intentions. You know, what intentions are you setting for our work together? Where do you want to be when we're done here? And then any support that you're wanting around building your own resilience. As well as any blocks that you may be aware of that might keep you from moving forward with this, and I'd be happy to help you with that. And so since there's 2 of you, I'd like to just, since we have about 35 minutes, I'd like to set a timer for like 14 minutes and just give each of you about 14 minutes of focused and support. Does that sound good?
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so, Barbara, I thought maybe we'd start with you since you already saw the content, and maybe the coaching that I give Barbara might give you, Bonnie, some insight on how to best be supported during your time. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Great. All right, Barbara, let me set my timer here for 14 minutes, my lucky number. And yeah, just whatever, it's your time, so you choose how you want to spend it. If you want to spend it sharing or if you want to spend it receiving coaching, it's totally up to you. I'm going to go ahead and start that timer. And I'm going to unpin my video so we can share the spotlight here. So, all right.
So, as I said in my comments in the first part, thinking of focusing on my origin story for my upcoming or, fledgling life book business. Bonnie, I'm expecting to have a shoulder surgery, like a shoulder replacement, probably early next year, and I'm gonna not be able to pick up a camera for for a few months. So I'm like, what am I gonna do in that time period? And I just last week finished a life book for a friend's 80-year-old father, and it's really moving. I just have always wanted to have people really appreciate their whole life, from before they were born, just all the things along the way. And I think this particular book really did it. My client just really brought the images and the stories, but structuring all this is kind of new, and there's part of me that wants to kind of hide, lay down and die. That's a really old story, but so yeah, it feels daunting, to generate a whole new clientele. Maybe it's not new, maybe some of my existing clients want that kind of thing, for somebody to for their lives to be appreciated while they're still alive, not wait till after they're dead, and to be able to do that, and to really feel loved by people who have the book created for them.
I love that.
So that's the kind of thing that I can do, with micro movements, sitting at the computer or sitting in my my recliner, even, So, but coming up with the origin story, I think, is really a big part of it, and maybe speaking to some groups or something, so that I want to be able to communicate really effectively, what kind of a difference this makes for people.
Yeah.
And why do it now?
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So anything you might pick out to help me with Star, I would really appreciate.
Well, yeah, and you said a phrase, rather than just lay down and die, which I totally, have been through that, where there's and you said the word daunting, where there's this thing you want to do, and it's a good idea, but it's it's almost, I used the phrase recently, if I make the thing too big and I don't build myself up, it's I crumble under the weight of it. And so I think to get started, while I totally agree your origin story is going to be helpful, I think this is perfect timing for you to really focus on those inner assets, on building that resilience. So when you have those moments of doubt, when you have those moments of like, oh my God, this is so daunting, what have I got myself into, or whatever the voices say,
Yeah.
that there is, you know, a part of you that is stronger than those voices, and a part of you that is aware that those voices are gonna come up. And Bonnie, I'm going to go ahead and mute you for just a minute since you've got some background noise. So don't
Okay.
feel like I'm shunning you or anything.
That's okay.
Just want to make sure that we have Barbara in the spotlight for right now. So, oh, now it's just making Bonnie the one. I mean, you are the one, Bonnie. You are amazing. Let me just go to my audio settings really quick. All right. Well, we'll deal with that later. I thought there was a way to really like pin the next person. Here, Barbara, why don't you speak and then you'll be pinned.
Oh, yes.
There you go. Boom. So, what are some of the fears when you say it's really daunting? Get more clear about what are some of your fears around?
Well, this particular book that I just finished has so many images in it, you know, and I priced myself below. I mean, it was a friend, you know, so
Right.
I've done it for 30-something years, you know, so and it's sort of a, you know, it's partly an act of love, but you know, she paid me what felt like a big price to her, but so how do I price this stuff? You know, is it based on number of images? I don't want to discourage people from, you know, including it. Is number of pages, you know, there's like the whole quality of the book. And so sort of, you know, creating the basic structure for being able to communicate with people about you know, what working with me on one would look like.
Right.
And there's like so much, you know, some people are really disorganized with their images and some people are very organized, and you know, it's like, so I took the time in this case, you know, to like sort things for her, and I've got all the software, you know, but I took pictures of pictures, you know, in order to get the higher resolution, you know, and it's a beautiful, really moving book, you know, learning all the stories and the family connections and who needs to really be seen enough in the book so that their feelings aren't hurt, you know. So I hold everybody in my heart. And but can put it out in a simple way to people who are interested.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. And so, you know, through the frame of building resiliency around this, I wonder if you can think of a time where you managed to get through that challenge of how do I price it, and how, you know, so first let's the how do I price it concern. Can you think of a time where in your other areas of your business where you've had that sort of like daunting, oh my God, how do I make this make sense to people? What do I do?
Right. Oh,
and
yeah.
and then you got through
photography is like that. It's been a long, slow journey, you know, to both honor myself and, you know, be priced in a way that people that most want to work with me, you know, can manage.
Great. And so one of the things we're going to be talking about, I didn't bring up this language in our content section, but I will next week, is, and you and I've talked about this before, is empowering beliefs. So part of building our resilience is really kind of building a body of empowering beliefs that we have about ourselves, because we have all these negative beliefs that we suck or we can't do it or it's going to be hard or, you know, all this stuff. And as we talked about in today's content, it's not about plucking those fears out, but you can put an empowering belief that's more powerful in there so that when that fear comes up, you can go, yeah, but awareness equals choice. I'm aware that I'm afraid of this, but I'm going to choose to believe the empowering belief instead. And so what is an empowering belief that you can have around trusting yourself to manage the nuances of pricing your work.
Well, working with you recently on I don't know how you did it, but you took me into a place where I felt really grounded, a bit free to be um, uniquely me, and to develop, not based on other photographers' prices or anything, but come up with something simple that that I felt good about. So I don't know how you got me to that place, but I can't quite remember. But I'm feeling really good, at this
Good.
point. So that's my example of resilience.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm wondering if something along the lines of, I'm confident in my ability to create unique pricings that feel free and that feel me.
Wow. I'm typing.
Yeah. Go ahead, take your time. So I'm confident in my ability to create unique pricing that feels free and that feels me. So those are the words that you used that really felt like you and that felt freeing. Because you've done it before, right?
Yeah.
And while I definitely helped shine the flashlight on the path, you're the one that walked the path. And so if you can continue to believe in yourself and to build that, even when fears come up, it doesn't mean that you have to replace your fear. It's like, well, don't fear that. You have nothing to be afraid of. Like, we're not doing that. This is more like, your fears are totally valid and they're not true, because I know I'm confident in my ability to create unique pricing that feels free and that feels like me. And then just continue to remind yourself that as you're going into creating your pricing. And remember what it felt like in that moment where we got to that place where you're like, oh, yeah, this feels good. I want this. And trust in your ability to recreate that experience for yourself. How's that feeling?
Still scary, but
yeah, that's the whole point. It's not going to make the fear go away. It's just going to change our relationship to it, right?
But yeah, it's I'm sort of leaning into it being possible. I mean,
Good.
I'm sure it's possible. It just feels complex. So.
Baby steps, and you'll take it one step at a time as you do everything else. And then I wanted to also do the same thing that we just did around sort of the concern that you had dealing with people. It's like dealing with the complexities of each person. And I just want to say, as your coach, you have done some incredible work over the past year. Just in that area alone, I think has been one of your largest areas of growth, is really shifting how you interact with people, shifting how you communicate with people, being willing to stand in your power as you clearly communicate with someone. And so I think that that's an empowering belief that you can bring up for yourself as you're going like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Something along the lines of, I know that I can handle really challenging situations with people with a lot of grace and love, and while standing in my own power. And really, you can use whatever words work for you, but some sort of empowering belief to remind yourself how far you've come and how great you've gotten at navigating those things. And do you have more to learn? Sure, we all do. There's always another layer, another lesson, another, angle or part of our evolution. But to really honor how far you've come and that you have a lot of tools in your toolbox, to deal with the complexities of other humans, because humans are complex. So you're welcome. You've got just under a minute left. How's that feeling for you as a baby
good.
steps on building resiliency?
Yeah. Yeah, it's grounding. Rather than my mind going,
yeah, and that's
like,
what
I've come a long way,
yeah.
And I've done it before, done some of these things before in different areas, but yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
No, thank you. And it's just a thank you for being a great example of how, we're so focused on the outer thing. Like if I get the outer thing clear, I'll feel better inside. But it's the opposite. It's when we can build that resilience, build those inner assets, then we have more of us to bring to solve the outer problems or to face the outer challenges. And I can just see it in you as you're talking. There's more, like you said, there's a more grounded truth in there. So thank you.
Thank you.
And hopefully that'll be the last day that you hear that sound, because I got my old ringtones back for my SD card. So I like the other sound much better. Bonnie, I lost all of my sounds about a month ago, and I've been very sad about it because I usually have a much more like wah, wah kind of spacey sound rather than a ding, ding, ding. So just the little vulnerable visibility for me. All right. Thank you, Barbara. I'm going to go ahead and mute you too so that we can have spotlight on Bonnie here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start, Bonnie, and then go ahead and share with me what's up for you, and I'll see how I can support you.
So my thing is I guess I'm not feeling as confident in my position. However, I kind of have this understanding that my experience should be enough because I've already gone through the journey. So it's a little bit different when you're, managing weight loss patients. You kind of don't necessarily need the textbook smarts, but I'm trying to figure a way to become more confident in that position, that although I don't have the textbook education, I have the experience that kind of brought me through it.
Yeah.
And then also feeling confident when I'm selling said product, because I'm not trying to be those trashy cars salesman. I'm trying to be a person that will hold someone accountable to investing in their lifelong health. There's a big difference between trying to sell somebody something and helping someone invest in themselves. And I have this weird toss between where I'm on the fence, where I'm confident about it and then I'm not confident about it, and then I'm confident about it then I'm not. So that's kind of where I think that's my biggest struggle, is just not bringing the confidence, although I have amazing ideas to put it together. But like you guys were both saying, having so many, this huge big picture, just not knowing how to kind of putting it all together and getting overwhelmed because it's too big and you crumble under it. I totally understand that, because I do feel like essentially Dr. Dan wants me to be the weight loss director who does all the consultations and all the intake forms and all the everything, and do the marketing, which I've never done marketing before. And so it's kind of all very overwhelming. I have really great ideas, but I also don't have the experience in any of it. So I don't know how to be confident in something I'm not aware of. It's definitely, this position is definitely the fear of the unknown and being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's this job, essentially.
Yes.
So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that. And so I would like to do a little bit of a combo. So the first few minutes I'd like to spend on kind of doing the same thing I did with Barbara, where we can give you an empowering belief to kind of take in when you have those moments of lack of confidence.
Okay.
And then I'd also like to give you just a little bit of some sales training on how to frame this idea of marketing with your people. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Cool. So first, can you think of a time in your life where you kind of didn't know the exact ropes of what you were doing, but you got in there and you accomplished it anyway?
Yeah.
You figured it out along the way.
Yeah. I feel like that was my weight loss journey. I had no clue.
Oh, perfect.
How to do it.
Yes.
I had no clue.
Yeah. And so what are some beliefs that you can bring in to these moments about yourself that can apply to the situation? So is it trusting that you'll learn? Is it trusting in your ability in the present moment self to figure it out? Is it trusting that you'll get the information? What do you think is your biggest fear that around this position?
Honestly, retaining the marketing terrifies me. Retaining the information and being able to execute it properly is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to say it other than the fact that like I get so overwhelmed with it, I don't want to do it. Even though I know that if I just sat down and like did the education and just kind of followed the steps, then I'd be fine.
Yeah.
But I get so in my head and overwhelmed with, oh, you got to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and I just can't bring it in, can't reel it in.
Yeah. And so did you have those moments at the beginning of your journey with your weight loss, with your health journey?
Yes, like I remember like it's kind of like, well, I didn't know what to eat. And what times to eat them. I didn't know how frequently to go to the gym. I didn't know what exercises to do at the gym. Like I didn't know how to incorporate all of that stuff. So therefore, I mean, that's
how did you get through
I just kind of got in there and did it.
Yeah, right. You just kind of got in there and did it, right? And so what is a phrase or a belief that you can have about yourself that can sort of bring that same sense of accomplishment, even in confusion, that you can bring into these moments? Like, I am confident in my ability to what are some of the qualities that you think really helped you then that can help you now?
I don't know.
Maybe it's something as simple as I trust in myself to figure it out.
Yeah, I think I do. I do lack trusting myself big time.
Because that's really what confidence is all about, is trusting yourself. Is really trusting in our abilities. Kind of like I was sharing with Barbara, you know, there's that moment of like, how do I price it? And then we go, well, you've done this before when you were feeling the same thing. And so can you trust that your now self can do what your past self did, which is get through the fear and do it anyway and figure it out, and figure it out, not just in a, okay, I guess it's all right. But as Barbara was sharing, oh, I was able to get to a place where my pricing felt like me and felt free.
Yeah.
And I, from what, you know, you shared with your healing journey, I mean, it sounds like you moved through that with your healing journey, with your health, where you are confident in your ability to provide health for yourself.
Yeah.
And so trust in the self is really kind of rewriting the story. It's really tapping into those times where you didn't know what you were doing. You were super confused. You didn't know what to eat or when to eat or how to eat. And yet you made it through.
Right.
And so it's not about never having fears, as I talked about in today's content. And I highly encourage you to go back and read through that, because I think it'll help with this part. And no shame or blame or anything, but I do think that it will help. And I think the more that you can, again, they're not replacing fears. We're just putting truth next to them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm totally afraid that, you know, I don't feel confident in my position, or I'm scared of marketing, or, you know, I'm making it so big that I feel like I'm collapsing under the weight of it. And the truth is, you know I've gotten through this before, and I'll get through this again.
Yeah.
And it may be just as simple as that. I've gotten through this before, and I trust I'll get through it again.
Okay.
How does that sentence resonate with you?
It does. It resonates well with me, but also something that came to my mind is being comfortable with facing my fears, even if I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I do talk a little bit about facing fears in today's content. And so I think there's some, I think, perspective shifts and mindsets there that'll help for sure.
Okay.
And then, you know, I want to take the last like 6 minutes or so and talk about something you said around selling and marketing. And you said, I don't want to be the used car salesman guy. Totally appreciate that. So I have a book recommendation for you if you're into it.
Okay.
It's called To Sell is Human. And it's by Daniel H. Pink. And I want to bring up a concept that he talks about in there for a minute. But he says that the thing about the used car salesman is like our epitome of gross selling. And he uses that as an example to share why sometimes we feel gross when we're being sold to, and why other times it doesn't feel so gross, right? And so he says that really what makes the used salesman feel gross is what he calls the information gap. And so back in the day, before the internet, before you could go to CarQuest and look up, you know, the history of every car if you had the VIN number, when you went to a used car lot, that salesperson had the information and you didn't, right? So you're going to that used car lot and the salesperson knows, well, that's a lemon, but we priced it really high, and that's priced really high, but it's worth every penny. But you don't know that. And so the reason it feels gross is because you know that that used car salesman isn't going to tell you that information and that you have to make a sales choice based on lack of information. But that is really what makes that gross, icky, selling feeling. It's really that information gap. And so just as a kind of baseline for marketing is when you can provide as much information as possible so that people can make an informed choice on their own. You don't have to feel gross because it's really up to them. You're not convincing them of anything. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not trying to manipulate anyone. You're giving them the information they need to make a healthy choice, to make a choice that is for themselves. And then as far as the more tougher parts of that selling process, we're going to go into this more when we talk about the origin story. But the old model of marketing was, well, you're broken and I will save you and fix you. And that's another place where marketing feels really yucky.
Yeah.
Where it's really based on what they call inadequacy. Well, you're inadequate on your own and you need me to save you. And I know that that's not how you want to roll and that's not how you want to do that, because that, again, that is that old way of marketing.
Yeah.
It's dying, it's on its deathbed, it's having its last breath.
Mm-hmm.
And so the new way of marketing, as I shared at the workshop, is really about this sort of seeing your potential client as the hero in their own journey. And that your job, if they choose to accept you, is just the guide. I don't know if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's like hero's journey format. It's a very long, so Joseph Campbell, he studied mythology and stories, and he found that from way, way old myths from thousands of years ago, all the way to, you know, Star Wars and some of our newer models of story, that there's this journey, this path that all the heroes go on. And there's got some, you know, some shadows and some pitfalls and then some bringing to the light. And at the very end, they end up going through a transformation and then bringing what they learned back to their people, right? That's kind of like the whole cycle of it. And you can look up if you're interested in looking at that journey on your own. But the part that is important for us as business owners is that along that journey, in order to get to the place of transformation, they had a guide or a mentor. And that's us. We're the guide, we're the mentor. And so when we can place ourselves in the role of the guide and the mentor, it's not up to us to save our client. They're the ones that are going to save themselves. But we can position ourselves as someone who can guide them along the way. And so I know that there's a much deeper, longer answer to that. And obviously there's a ton of like sales training and all sorts of different angles I can hit. But I think that just in the time that we have right now and where you are right now, these two pieces of really getting that marketing is about providing enough information so people can make an informed choice. And that recognizing that you don't have to worry about manipulating or anyone or convincing anyone or pushing anyone, that gross kind of approach to sales, as long as you're not positioning yourself above them as though you're going to save them from themselves. As long as you're an equal with them, you're just going to guide them along the way. And a great example of this is like in Frodo in the Lord of the Rings, like Samwise Gamgee was his guide.
Yeah.
Right. He was his buddy. He was his helper. One of his helpers was our Gandalf, the wizard. I almost said Dumbledore. I'm like, wrong wizard. And, you know, neither Sam nor Gandalf were perfect. They didn't have all their shit together. They didn't know exactly what was going on. They had their own trials and tribulations that they were going through. And yet their presence and their commitment to Frodo's journey are part of what helped get him through. And that's the position that you can see yourself in. And so those are just some kind of ground foundational concepts to support you that we can build on from there as we go through this journey together. But really framing those things as, I'm going to give as much information as I can. and I don't need to pressure anybody because I'm just going to be their guide. And then, of course, building trust so that they can trust you. And that's where the origin story comes in, is that the origin story helps to build that trust, to let them know that you are the person that can help them because you
Okay.
have gone through this journey on your own.
Yeah,
So how's all that landing with you?
that's good. I feel good.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I'd love to hear any final, I'm going to unmute you too, Barbara. I would love to hear, and I know, Bonnie, you weren't here for the beginning part, and that's totally fine. I'd love to hear just a couple sentences on what were some of your biggest takeaways from our time together today. And then sort of what are you hoping to move forward with next? So your biggest takeaways from our time together today, and what's really like your next baby step that you're going to start applying now for yourself. So either one of you want to go first? I'm not attached.
Well, I think for me, it's the inner world being more important than the outer one. I tend to get caught up in all the details instead of focusing on my doing my inner work. So the coaching that you gave me is, reminds me that I've made it through all kinds of stuff before. And,
yes, you've made it through all kinds of stuff before.
Yeah, and I can figure this out.
Yes, you can. Awesome. Thank you. How about you, Bonnie?
As for me, I think that the best thing I took away from this was just being able to kind of reframe how I think about marketing and selling things to people, and kind of shifting my thing to sleazy car salesman into confident mentor. So
love that.
Kind of like big for me, I think, for sure, just in that little bit.
I love it. Yay. And then I would love to hear what you ladies, and obviously you're going to go back and read through the content and this answer might change, but what it's like a baby step that you're going to start after our call today.
My baby step, I know this is probably going to sound really silly, but I'm going to actually start doing sleep affirmations.
Oh, nice.
For confidence.
I love it. I don't think that's silly at all.
Yeah.
May I share something I've learned recently about affirmations?
Mm-hmm.
They've done some research on people who are like really, really successful and able to move through stuff with a lot of inner grace. And they found that those people don't do I am affirmations. They actually look in the mirror and they say you to themselves. And so, for example, the thing that I said to Barbara about, I'm confident in my ability to create unique pricing. Barbara, I would recommend you say that to yourself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confident in your ability to create pricing that feels good and allows, whatever the thing is. And so as you're doing affirmations, even if you just have a little mirror by the bed and you can just like right before you go to sleep, like you're awesome, whatever the thing is.
Yeah, that's interesting because we do tend to believe what someone else says more than what we say to ourselves. So it's sort of like we're separating ourselves into.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're great. No, you're great. I love it. I totally celebrate and support that baby step, Bonnie. How about you, Barbara? What's your big?
I think do the homework that you gave us, filling out the costs and benefits template, and then looking at my time in my life when I felt the most resilient, and another time when I felt the least resilient, and then what were the factors that led me to those to feeling that way, those ways.
Great. Well, I am so excited to be on this journey with both of you, and well done. And if you have stuff that comes up throughout the week, that's what the Facebook group is for. Well, I won't offer a lot of live coaching in the Facebook group. I want it to be a place where you connect, where you're witnessed in your unfolding. You can share the answers to your homework there if you want to, or you can just say, hey, I'm doing great. I want some love, and we can be like, woohoo, go you, you know, or hey, I'm having a rough time. Remind me how awesome I am. And we can be like, you're awesome, you know, whatever the thing is, and anything in between. And it's a way for us to just stay connected throughout the week. And then I just want to thank you both so much for being on this journey with me. I'm really excited to get to go through this process. And it's a great opportunity for me to practice taking those baby steps as well, because I also struggle with like, I want the whole thing and I want to give them all the things right now. And I've learned, as we learned at our workshop, trying to give too much actually isn't helpful.
Yeah.
That really slowing down, taking these baby steps, starting where we are and going from there. And so trust that we'll get to the origin story. We'll get to some of these outer things that our ego wants us to, but I think it's important to start right where we are and start building this resilience so that we have that with us as we move through the other steps. So I want to thank you both so much for being here on this journey with me. If you have any technical issues, please let me know. But in the meantime, look for your stuff in your membership area. And I'm just honored to be on this journey with both of you. So this wraps up the Vulnerable Visibility 101 Week 1 coaching section. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.